1 minute after 6 o'clock. It is Wednesday, July 10th, 2019, not 2018, as the agenda says. My apologies. This is our annual joint work session between the City Council of Lincoln City and the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners, and we begin these meetings with introductions. Why don't I start off? We'll move to my right with the Honorable Mayor and then circle around the table. Claire Hall, Commissioner.
And Dick Anderson, Mayor.
Mitch Parsons, Councilor, Ward 1.
Katie Jacobson, County Commissioner.
Diane Coos, Councilor, Ward 2.
Judy Casper, Councilor, Ward 3.
Rick Mark, City Councilor, Ward 3.
Riley Hoagland, Ward 2 Councilor.
Doug Hunt, County Commissioner.
Deanna Hinton, Ward 1 Councilor.
Okay, welcome everybody and thank you. I believe this is the first time I remember a completely full house. Nobody absent on either side of the table, so that's very nice. We have, at least in a few years, we have half a dozen topics, so hopefully we can devote about 10 minutes each to them. If some of them take less, that's fine. Commissioner Jacobson and I have worked out a good little act because I can get distracted by interesting discussions as much as anyone, and so she will help us keep it on schedule. But we have asked several department heads to come here tonight and report with a general focus on department heads and elected officials, a general focus and update on their departments, but specifically with services provided in the north part of the county, and especially details on new and expanded services. Cinda Bruce, Lincoln County Transit Director, you are first. Please come on up.
And as Cinda comes up, I will just say that we have 10 minutes total per topic, so if you can keep your presentation to 5-ish minutes and leave time to questions, that would be great. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Cinda Bruce, Program Director for Lincoln County Transit.
They'll come right down to you.
Okay. Normally my voice carries pretty well. So I've just made a quick list of some of the services that our program is currently providing, some enhancements that have recently come to fruition, and a project that we can look forward to soon. Still not enough? So some of the services that we provide is the dial-a-ride service, Monday through Friday. We have intercommunity transportation, which is Lincoln City to Newport, and that is provided 7 days a week, 5 round trips daily, Monday through Saturday, and 4 round trips daily on Sunday. We work in coordination with Tillamook. They're our partner in the Connector Alliance. So we coordinate to provide the Tillamook to Lincoln City 4 round trips daily, 7 days a week. Lincoln City to Grand Ronde and on to Salem, 3 round trips, 7 days a week. We're looking at an expansion to perhaps 4 times a day on that one. Lincoln City to Grand Ronde, 4 round trips, Monday through Friday. We have our Lincoln City Loop, and I'm excited to say that the Lincoln City Loop has recently been expanded beginning this month. We now operate 7 days a week, including holidays, with the exception of Christmas and Thanksgiving. That's one that we've been working on, and the city has really wanted for some time, so I'm pretty pleased with that one. We also started a summer meal program last year. Lincoln City was our pilot project, and the schools provide a summer meal program for some of our low-income residents, and not just the children, but the families as well. So we have worked with them to provide special passes so that the families can get to the meal sites. The first year we were able to provide services to 50 families, and the school district was very pleased with that and asked that we expand that to throughout Lincoln County, which we started this year. I'll be back to report on that later, but it seems to be going well, and I'm hoping we can provide a lot of service to folks out there needing it. Student transportation, grades 9 through 12. This is some of the STIF funding as well as the expansion to the Lincoln City Loop. But the
And excuse me, please,
Yes.
STIF, what does the acronym stand
Oh,
for?
I'm sorry, Statewide Transportation Improvement Funds. Yeah, I'm so sorry, I get caught up in that. And the, when this funding was brought about, the legislature mandated that we put aside a certain amount of funding for grades 9 through 12. We could come up with any projects that we wanted, but what I felt would work best for the community, the students, the parents, would be to have them use their student body cards as their passes and just open up the entire system to them within the city, the county boundaries. I don't have any figures on that yet because it just started like around the time school was ending. So it's pretty new, but I'm hoping that it's successful. Still to come, we are going to be putting a shopper bus. This shopper bus will serve throughout the county 1 day a week in each area. It will be a smaller van than even our dial-a-ride, because what we've run into is there are a lot of people within our community that we can't get to some of the really more isolated, smaller spots with our regular size buses. So it's a pilot project and we'll see how that works out. We also purchased 8 ADA accessible bus shelters for the city of Lincoln City. The city of Lincoln City and Lincoln County Transit work very close together, and we have for many, many years. And in the beginning, the city actually found shelters to put up for our system. We were so grateful for that. But over the years, ADA regulations became more stringent, and we found that the shelters were not ADA accessible anymore. We had to replace those. So I was able to do a grant for the bus shelters, and I even was able to pull down $20,000 to give back to the city for installing them. You guys are great partners, and when I can successfully write a grant like that, I want to be able to contribute back for all the work you do for us as well. We appreciate you all.
How are we doing on time here?
Probably time for questions if
Yes.
you're.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, questions for Cinda? Anybody?
See, I think Riley, Councilor Hoagland sits on the, and I don't recall, but the county-wide district transportation board, or?
We had a few people that we had to put on as members at large because we were, for the committee, there's only 5 people on the committee, and 3 of them have to have very specific criteria.
Okay, and just for a little context, this is a new committee that melded a couple of our existing committees together, created by state statute, and to make sure there's certain broad input on the use of the new money that's coming in because of the new statewide payroll tax, correct?
Yes, and so we had some very long-standing committee members on our STF and our advisory committee, and we combined the two. So it was pretty difficult to have everybody on it. But I am encouraging members at large to come and contribute. I encourage participation from as many community members as we can get there.
Chair,
Yes.
can I ask a couple
Certainly.
questions? Okay. I just have 2 questions. One, where the high school students are using their student body cards, are you, as passes to get on the bus system, are you keeping track of that somehow, how many students are using it, so you'll have some way of tracking the success of that.
We are tallying those, and because we have to be able to report back to the legislature. So we're being very, very in tune with that. We also provided some services. That also includes the career tech schools, by the way.
Oh, good.
We're including all of them. We've also provided some training for some of the students. We have some challenged students that need a little more assistance, so we're providing a little one-on-one, going through the rules, taking them on a mock shopping trip so they know what to expect about putting in their fares, sitting, seatbelts.
Oh, good.
We started out with 2 and we've done 8 so far. So they keep asking for them.
That's good. I just have
Question?
one question. The other one is your shopper bus that you're going to start, which is a great idea. Is that going to be on schedule, or do people call and?
That will be more of a demand response.
Okay.
Because we'll want to meet what the community needs. It's not going to do us any good to have it and then nobody can go at that time. So we will work on a more demand. People will call and register for that service, like a dial-a-ride.
And I will just add that I hate the name shopper bus, because part of the other reasons is that for people to come in for non-emergency medical appointments and that kind of stuff, that you could schedule that, so.
That's correct. And
Yeah.
shopper bus was just an easy term for the grant application, but it's
Yeah.
going to be much more than a shopper bus. If somebody wants to, for some people, a hair appointment is more important than a doctor's appointment. So there'll be hair appointments, doctor's appointments,
Okay.
shopping, errands.
Cinda, thank you very much.
Yeah,
That's
thank
wonderful. We are we do have to keep to a pretty full schedule.
I
but
can
I'd-
keep going.
Yeah, we're
Thank you,
right, we're
Cinda,
right on
but
time.
not tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I just really want to encourage anybody to take Cinda up, and Sheriff, would you come forward, please? Anybody to take Cinda up on her invitation. She is always very accessible, very responsive, wants to hear what's working with the system, what isn't working. So thanks. Sheriff, please introduce yourself, though I bet everybody knows you.
Good evening, Commissioners and Counselors. I am Curtis Landers, Lincoln County Sheriff. And just kind of a brief overview of some of the services that the Sheriff's Office provides. We provide a variety of services to citizens countywide. Overall in Oregon, some don't realize that there are actually 68 statutes that specifically mandate by law what the duties of a Sheriff's Office are. Some of these include the ones you're probably familiar of with running a county jail, serving and processing various civil service and other judicial process, issuing concealed handgun licenses, and providing search and rescue, and keeping the peace within the county, and there are numerous other ones. In Lincoln County, we also provide animal services countywide through a taxing district. This includes operating the animal shelter and also the animal services deputies that serve the entire county. We also provide marine patrol services, including Siletz Bay and Devil's Lake. We also assist cities with emergency management. We provide canine services now. We also work in partnership together with the police department on multiple agency events, such as including the major crash and major crime teams. And just to provide some specific statistics related to Lincoln City that you might be interested in, during the last 2 years, the Lincoln City Police Department booked a total of 838 individuals into the Lincoln County Jail. June 2018 through June 2019 was 451, and June 2017 through 2018 was 387. So there was an increase over last year, just to point out. We currently have 571 concealed handgun license holders with a Lincoln City address. Also, during the last year, animal services deputies worked on 30 cases in the city of Lincoln City. This could be anything from a dog bite to an animal cruelty case, and that there were also 252 other animal calls in the city, and these could be your nuisance reports, barking dog, dog running at large, this type of thing. Our patrol deputies assisted the Lincoln City Police Department in 60 separate calls over the last year, and this is really a mutual partnership because that we have with the police department that we enjoy very much, because they have also assisted us on a number of calls over last year as well by going outside the city, and we really appreciate that in our county. We couldn't do these things without the partnerships we have with our local law enforcement. Some of the calls that have been in the media lately involved our K-9 program, and since 2017, our K-9 program has had 35 deployments, resulting in 18 captures. Specifically in Lincoln City, our K-9s have been deployed 9 times with 4 captures. And so I know that the police department is currently looking at a K-9, and we very much support that. I think, you can see that the need is definitely there, and it also is going to help. I know the city of Toledo is looking at one, and Newport has 2 narcotic detention K-9s. And so as far as working on a team for the county, I think it's going to be real beneficial, because right now with us having the only patrol dogs, we have to actually go to the valley for training. And once we get a few more K-9s in the city, we can actually do county-wide training. And so I think that's going to work out well for all of our agencies moving forward. One last thing I want to touch on that I've been working on is the pretrial justice program that we actually got up and running last October. We funded 2 positions through the general fund and the budget committee and the commissioners the previous budget year. And so far we're seeing, it's still early to see where the results are going to take us, but so far we're seeing some results that are showing some success in there. Number 1 being that the fail to appear rate has gone down for people that are in the system. And we are also seeing that that the success rate is very high. We have, since October, we have had 1,400 people entered in the pretrial justice program, which is basically a program so that individuals that get arrested, get arraigned, basically go into this program instead of being held in custody. The judges still order that, but what they're doing is that they're showing that we're trying to find the best person released from jail, not just whether or not somebody can afford to be released from jail. And so we're looking at risk factors and whether or not somebody can be basically back out in the community as soon as we can, because we know we want to try to get people out of jail as soon as possible so they're back in the community, because the longer someone stays in jail, their likelihood of them reoffending significantly goes up. And so far the results have been showing very good. Like I said, 1,400 people. Out of the people that have completed the program, 800 people have successfully completed the program, meaning that they haven't failed to appear and they haven't reoffended during that time. I know it's a short period of time still, but those are real good numbers. And we've only had a little over 100 people actually have been unsuccessful in the program where they failed to appear or they've reoffended during that time. So that's a program, again, that's helping us countywide. Hopefully that eventually we'll start seeing some crime reduction results in all areas of the county, including Lincoln City.
Time for questions.
Great.
Perfect
Yes.
job, Sheriff.
Counselor.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
I have a few questions. You gave the number about Lincoln City has increased their booking rate against the last year. How do we compare against the other cities in the county?
You actually are compared to, for example, I was looking at it, the sheriff's office was around 1,200. It's a little bit skewed because we also, the court commits come through us, so we actually count those. Compared to Newport for a year, they're running about 600 to 700. Toledo's about 200 to 250 over the years. So you're above Toledo, but below Newport and us.
Well, probably to population. The length of time that people will wait for trial as they're being booked, do you have
It really varies. I think at one
Is it going down? Is it going up? How are you processing the time spent of people awaiting trial?
And, it's another reason why the pretrial program is so important to get people out, even while they're waiting trial. One other thing that we've done is we have the pretrial house down a transition program services house down in Newport that we can hold 10 individuals, not be it so they can go back to work, they can start their programming. As far as the overall numbers, I'd have to look at that. We have some people that have been in there over a year. We have some people that are moving through speedy. Our goal is also always to get people through the system as quick as possible, and I don't think I'm specifically answering your question on that or have the numbers. Sometimes we're at the mercy of the court with that and the attorneys that are involved.
I understand. And lastly, you gave the numbers of 18 captures to 35 deployments and for the county and 4 of 9 for the cities, and that's just about 50%. Is that typical compared to normal foot chases? I mean, in the events that you wouldn't use a dog and you don't capture them, how would those rate against those 2 times?
I think this is much better, compared to what we were seeing, because number one, we really value safety, especially for our deputies. So a lot of these circumstances and the officers, we probably wouldn't even be sending people out to look for them unless we had the K-9.
Initially, okay.
Yeah. So I think it's very important to do that because it's much safer to look for someone with the K-9. They're a lot better at it than we are. So.
Well, to give context, if they're like, well, the naysayer could say, well, it's only 18
Right.
out of 35, why does Lincoln City need it if it's only a 50%?
Yeah, it's,
capture
you know,
rate?
it
So-
was, when we started with One Dog. It was basically a pilot program that we, similar to you, obtained fundraising dollars to help offset the costs. And, you know, I wanted to see how it was going to work, and it proved to be much more successful than I ever thought it would. So I think you'll see the similar results once you have one up here.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. Anything else for the sheriff?
I just wanted to add that we have 2 jail tours coming up for city council, for all city councils in Lincoln County, July 18th and 23rd. I think some of you are already signed up, but we still have room if anyone else wants to join.
Yeah, I encourage you, if you have the time to come down and do that, it's really you know, a good tour, kind of see what your jail's doing and some of the things that we're doing there. If for some reason those dates didn't work, you need to see some other time, let me know and we can fit you in some other time too.
Yeah, statutorily, the county commissioners are required to tour the jail every year, and so far, we've been staying on the sheriff's good side, and he keeps letting us out, but certainly glad to broaden it, especially, you know, for city councils, because the law enforcement partnership between the county and the cities is so important.
Yes, we will let you out, that's absolutely.
Yes. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now let's invite our Health and Human Services management team to come forward. Rebecca McBee-Wilson and Rebecca Austin, or as they are sometimes colloquially known around the county, the Rebeccas, or the dynamic
Today we
duo.
refer to as the R's, so it's
The
getting
Rs.
short. It's like
There you
Rebecca's
go.
just too
Or
long
R
a
squared.
word.
R squared.
So I am Rebecca Austin, and I'm the director of the Health Department at HHS.
And I'm Rebecca McBee-Wilson. I'm the Health Center Director. So, you want me to start?
Go ahead. So
Okay.
just to let them know that we passed this out.
We did. We passed out the information about all the services provided under Health and Human Services, because in 5 minutes, it's going to be really hard to cover them all because we have a lot of services. So I just wanted to say that Lincoln Community Health Center is a federally qualified health center. It is a special designation from HRSA, which is Health Resources Services Administration, and they you have to apply to receive this designation, and in doing so, there's a lot of benefits that are for the community. So we're celebrating our 13th anniversary. We opened on July 1st, 2006, and so we just celebrated that. There's about 1,400 health centers across the country and about 9,200 different sites, and they are located in areas where there's either a high need for physicians and practitioners, and federally qualified health centers have ways to help bring them in, or there's a number of folks who would not have the resources to receive the care if we were not here. And Lincoln County, unfortunately, ranks high on both of those. Our particular health center is known as a public entity, so that means that the Board of Commissioners and the Lincoln Community Health Council are the 2 entities that share responsibility for overseeing the clinics. Last year, we saw about 5,066 individuals in the county, so that's about a little over 10% of the county. We met in some fashion. Some folks receive both physical health and mental health, and one of the basic premises of a federally qualified health center is no one is turned away with it because they are unable to pay. That's a basic value and premise that's been there since the mid-1960s, and we hold that dearly. As a result of that, we have a sliding fee scale, and we have a nominal fee of $5. And if people are unable to pay, that will make generous, able to pay for that on a billing cycle. 65% of the individuals we saw last year were at 100% and below of the poverty level, and 92% of the folks were 200% and below of the poverty level. So there is a lot of high need here, and I think we do a really good job of meeting that need. Sometimes people misunderstand. They think that only the underserved population can be served at our health center, but that's not true. We accept all insurances, and we believe that we are the health center for all.
Could I jump in with a quick question, please?
Yes.
And I didn't ask in advance, so sorry if it's catching you off guard, or maybe we could get it later if you don't have it even off the top of your head. Just even a ballpark of that 5,066 people, roughly 10% of the total county population. Do you have a sense between the adult primary care clinic at Devils Lake and the student health center at Taft, what?
I do.
How's our usage here versus the
I have
rest?
it right here.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that was covered.
So in the last 12 months, we saw over 1,900 people with physical health needs and over 2,300 for the mental health. And at Taft, we served 323 students for physical health needs, and we saw 378 for mental health. And, there were many visits that were accompanied, but that was just the number of unique individuals that we saw. So if you look at what we have on our flyer here, you'll see that we have primary care. The school-based health care centers are under the scope of the health center, and we have behavioral health, and there's a lot. We provide physical health, acute care, chronic care. Our school-based health care centers provide services at the school. In Lincoln City, we now have, not only do we have the services at Taft, but we have mental health counselors also going into Ocean Lake and Taft Elementary, which has really been a nice service. That was requested, and we were able to meet that need. And some of the other things that we've been adapting in Lincoln City is that we have walk-in assessments 3 days a week. People can come into Lincoln City and be seen and get an assessment, a brief assessment, and then be seen in the next little while for a bigger assessment if it seems like they could benefit from our services. We have a crisis team up and running throughout the county, and they're up in Lincoln City a lot, and that's really helped. It's a standalone crisis team of 4 different individuals. And just a lot of people are getting out in the community. Our care managers are getting out and working with folks in Lincoln City. And we have the most integrated site that we have is in Lincoln City. And I'm just going to wrap up because I know you have things, but we have physical health, we have mental health, we have addictions, and we have child and family services and adult services, and then we also have our partners that are in the health department. So it's a very integrated site. It's a very busy site. We're located next to the DMV.
Yes.
We're the last light going out of town. So
something we're dreaming of mirroring in Newport someday, where we're scattered on several different sites, but it's great that it worked out when we opened up 13 years ago, that we were able to get that right away up here.
that's really beneficial when you have everything at the site, because people can come in and get their physical health needs and the mental health, and the folks can talk and get that very coordinated care.
All right, we got to move on.
Thank you, Rebecca. Rebecca?
Okay, so real quick, so it might be a subtle difference, but there are 2 sides to this. One is the health center, which is what Rebecca just talked about. The other side is the health department, and if you think of that more as the public health services that we provide across the county, that's more about prevention. It's less about individual care. So we don't have like doctors. We do have nurses. We have nurses that go out and do home visits for pregnant and parenting families. We have 2 nurses located here in Lincoln County, and they, one of them goes to the hospital every day and visits anybody that's given birth the day before. So we make sure that we connect with everybody in the county that has given birth to a new baby, because we feel like it's really important for a nurse to get in there and see what that family's going to need to make sure that they're successful at raising that
Quick
baby.
question here, and even if they live in Lincoln City, but the baby is not born in Lincoln City, they happen to have the baby, say, in McMinnville.
If they go to
that
McMinnville, we get that.
would get a
We get a
referral.
referral from McMinnville, and then we go out and visit them. That's
Okay.
right. So you can see that we have a lot of things on our list. Restaurant inspections, they're out here every day in Lincoln City, visiting your restaurants and making sure that they are meeting the standards so people don't get sick. And I just wanted to bring your attention to a new service that we've just started, with the thanks of the county commissioners who funded it last year to help us stand up a needle exchange program. And that may be sounding kind of controversial, but it's really a harm reduction model that we give clean needles to people who are inject drugs, because we feel like that is sort of it's harm reduction, right? We really want to prevent them from getting Hep C or HIV, which is very costly and debilitating diseases. So that's our first goal, is to try to prevent them from getting that by giving them clean needles. And the other thing is, I think that's really important to remember, is sometimes that's the first step people will make towards recovery. So that happened to us the first week that we went out, set up our little booth in Siletz to give out free needles. 2 women came to our little car that we had set up, and they exchanged their needles, and they said they wanted to get into treatment, and we helped facilitate that. So that was a really powerful thing for us to experience. Like, we thought this was going to work, but we didn't know it was going to work that fast. So, and we set up in Lincoln City in the parking lot at the clinic. So once a week, we're here trying to
I would
collect
also add that
needles.
it takes away the old sharps and disposes of them properly.
Yeah,
instead
so
of
we've been getting a lot of complaints about people that were flushing them down the toilets. They were ending up in the water
Parks and other
systems
public
and parks
places.
and the library. You know, they were all over the place. So we're really trying to, educate people. This is what you do with them. We give them sharps containers when we give them clean needles, so they have a place to put them. And then we're also going to be locating sharps containers around our community. So we're trying to clean up that mess.
Okay, so for the Rebeccas, Commissioner Hunt.
Well, would you comment about, excuse me, some of the county staff that are carrying, is it Noxon?
Oh, naloxone.
No, yeah, because
Yes.
my understanding is they found a used package in a parking lot recently, which to me would indicate that somebody's life might have been saved. So
Yes, that was another thing that we're doing with the opioid crisis. There's a lot of federal and state dollars available right now for public health to get more involved in getting naloxone out to our communities. And probably the most important thing is to get it out to people that are using drugs, because they're the ones, when they're with their buddies, they're going to save each other's lives. So we had just gotten those out to some people that we did needle exchange with, because that's the other thing. When we give them clean needles, we give them naloxone, show them how to use it. The same day that this was in Newport, not in Siletz, but the same day that we gave out clean needles, they were walking back to the clinic and they saw that somebody had already opened their package of naloxone and used it. So we're thinking, oh, wow. That's another thing that worked really fast. So we are getting naloxone out to everybody. I'm sure that your police department is already aware of it, has naloxone with them, as do the sheriff's department and all the other city police officers. And we are going to be training all of our staff, and anybody in Lincoln City that wants to have access to that, we can get it to you.
Great questions.
Yes. Anything else for the Rebeccas? Yes, Rick.
Rebecca McBee Wilson, I'm on the board at Neighbors for Kids in Depot Bay, and I think maybe you probably know more about it than I do. I believe there is a connection. There's
a
quite a few
partnership.
kids there with behavioral issues. They're very young, and I believe the county was helping.
Yes, that's a new partnership that we've developed, and Linda Gray said, be sure and remember to mention that, and I forgot. Yes, our child and family staff are this summer there working to make sure that the needs are met.
It's much appreciated. They're counselors on site, and it's really taking a lot of pressure off the staff, and Neighbors relies totally on nonprofit fundraising, so it's a huge help.
So that's something we've really been working on with our behavioral health staff, to get them out into the community more. We have had a lot of people that are interested in having our counselors available to them at the libraries, at the parks, at the warming shelter here, and we have case managers that come and help with resources, and now counselors are getting more involved. So that's a big effort that we've been making over the last year, and we'll continue to do that.
Yeah, I might emphasize that point. I think one of the things that has occurred in the last year or so as we've gone through this transition is the county is making the effort to be out developing partnerships and to be out where the citizens with needs are generally located, rather than just having an office and a door and hoping people will walk through the door. So I think that's an important difference in delivering the services. We're out on the streets where the people are, and then we can work with them in identifying their needs and addressing them.
Yeah, in rural areas, it's really a challenge for people to sometimes get to the office. So if we can go to them, we want to do that.
Devin Whitaker, come on up, please. R2, thank you very much. And again, questions, follow-ups, please don't hesitate to contact them. All right, I think you've heard the drill, sir, but update on services and service expansion and a focus on the good things that have been happening here since the new year.
Yes,
Floor is
and
yours.
Thank you for having me, Mayor and commissioners and councilors.
My name is Devin Whitaker. For those of you who haven't had the chance to meet, I'm the Veteran Service Officer for Lincoln County. We assist veterans in filing claims, getting through the immense bureaucratic process of filing for service-connected disability, healthcare enrollment. We fill in on the back end for burial benefits, survivor benefits, et cetera, et cetera. For time's sake, I won't go into too much detail about the nuts and bolts, but it is robust and important work. Traditionally, our presence in Lincoln City was only once a month, and shortly after I took on the role as the lead VSO, we began kind of a pilot information gathering over 2018 to see what those numbers were if we increased to once a week. That once a week visit here became, once the word got out, more veterans started participating in our walk-in days. Those were traditionally walk-in appointments. The walk-in load was far too much, so we recognized that we had to expand more. So beginning in 2019, after we took a look at the data and the workload, January 2019, we increased our presence to 3 days a week. That's 2 days for appointments and Wednesdays for primarily walk-ins. Appointments, we do claim workups, things that take time, client interviews, things like that, building trust, and walk-ins for your more or less established veterans. Sometimes those are opportunities to meet new veterans. So that's been a good balance. Our walk-in loads on Wednesdays have reduced, and we maintain generally a pretty full appointment day schedule.
And could I jump in here just briefly,
Absolutely.
sir, please? Thank you. And I would say, though, the county has steadily increased its commitment to the VSO operation. When I came in 15 years ago, we had one part-time person 4 days a week. Also, a big shout out to our own David Gomberg, who was in a key position in the legislature a couple of years ago, that basically it was county commissioners from around the state and veterans associations that were thumping loud and hard on the legislature's door, but that brought the first significant expansion in county veteran service funding in about 10 years and made this expansion possible, correct?
Yes, and that's been a steady increase. I stand on the shoulders of giants in terms of the huge amount of support that's been offered through the county commissioners. I think a lot of communities, either city councils or county commissioners throughout the country, Lincoln County not included in that, mind you, see the kind of work that we do as something that can be done for free by somebody else. And with respect to that, there are a lot of volunteer service officers out there provided through national service organizations, things like that. But the investment in a veteran service office through a county has proven just an exponential increase in benefits issued to veterans. Our GDX recently came out, and to just give you an idea,
GDX is?
I'm sorry, the global distribution.
We're talking about how much money comes into the
Sure,
county.
the
because
VA's
of your
report
work.
about how much money any individual county is receiving through a variety of benefits provided by the VA. We, per capita, per veteran population, we are on par with the amount of veterans receiving benefits with, say, like Lane County, when you consider the numbers. And so that means that Lincoln County veterans are receiving in excess of $26.6 million a year. And that's through compensation, pension, survivor benefits, health care coverage, that kind of thing.
And just, if you know, out of that $26.6 million a year, rough estimate of how many of those dollars you and your team have had a significant role or some role in facilitating?
Well, that's a tough one to
I know that's
quantify,
tough.
being
Yeah,
limited
but-
staff, and I'm not well
Now
versed in
there's
those
three
ways.
of you,
But
even though, there was
we
one
see
part-time.
retroactive payments. So when we file a claim, the amount of time it takes to adjudicate from the time the veteran is awarded, if they're awarded, they're retroactively paid back to the initial date of filing. Our retroactive payments, the VA has gotten more efficient in processing claims, which you would think would show a reduction of those retroactive amounts. But we have stayed over $1.5 million per year every year for the last 4 years. So, and at one time crested 2 million. And so we represent approximately 3,800 veterans countywide. That's from old census data, 5,600 veterans living in the area. The disparity, the number of veterans that we represent by comparison to other communities is staggering. We represent about 2/3 of our overall county population. Again, the census data has probably changed since then. We'll have to redo that, but just based on what the numbers that I've most recently had, we represent 2/3 of overall county veterans directly, compared to, you know, an eighth to a quarter, between an eighth and a quarter being the national average. Our budget is, I think the last report that we gave was about 1% of the overall county budget. We are the second cheapest department in the county. And when you consider the amount of return that goes into the community, granted these are non-taxable dollars because they're compensation, at the same time, where do you think that money's getting spent? It gets spent on mortgages, you know, car payments, groceries, things like that, not to mention offsetting the cost of health care for veterans that now gain better access to VA facilities and also medication. That's flat rate. So
Questions for comments for Devin? And where's the Lincoln City office located, in case anybody didn't know and was wondering?
absolutely. The Lincoln City Veteran Service Office is located at the WorkSource, our partnership with Oregon WorkSource and the Lincoln City office there. They've been kind enough to host us. And just real quick.
Sure.
You got
we-
3 minutes. You're
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Our traditional numbers for veteran interviews conducted throughout any given year, every quarter it's been about 500 veterans per quarter.
Is that, so that's 500 different people, or 500?
They can be repeats,
Okay.
and so we do count the same people, but these claims are dynamic, and so there's often many pieces of paper. We file about 5 pieces of paperwork with an initial claim. There could be another 5 to 10 generated by the time the decision is rendered. So we do count those as individual veteran interviews, and that was traditionally about 500 per quarter, about 2,000 veterans per year. With our Lincoln City expansion, saving veterans the time with the commute to get down into Newport, that has gone up, and we're projecting by year's end, we'll see how it goes, but based on these last 2 quarters, we're projecting between 2,400 and 2,500 veterans, so that would be a fairly significant increase by simply increasing the amount of time that we spend here.
Excellent. Anything else for Devin? All right, thank you, sir. Let's invite Roy Kenyon forward. And as we were saying just before the meeting, darn it, we forgot to ask Mr. Kenyon to bring the balloons or confetti or other appropriate celebratory materials. So we'll just do a virtual celebration. And I think you know what I'm trying to set you up for there, that big stack of paperwork we all signed tonight. Deeds, 13 of them.
That doesn't include the
Oh,
road.
well,
Yeah.
that goes even beyond rights of way, but also green space. But I know Mr. Kenyon was in the thick of this, along with other people on our side of the table as well as yours. So, Mr. Kenyon, the floor is yours.
Roy Kenyon, Lincoln County Public Works Director. And as far as the deeds go, I played a very small role in that. I was a supporting
whole
role.
process.
We got to thank Wayne for the heavy lifting there. And now you got me kind of off
Sorry.
topic.
Yeah.
But,
I'm trying to give you the big build-up, the big setup, and
yeah,
yeah.
kind of fizzled just a little bit. Anyway, as one of my departments, I represent the Lincoln County Road Department, and we don't have a lot of roads within the city proper, but north of the Siletz Bay, we do actually maintain 34 miles of road, 12 of gravel road, and what's the rest of it? 12 and 34. So 34 miles of paved road, of which we're trying to drop that down by 2 miles. And that was kind of my big topic today. Is just prior to this meeting, myself, Steve Hodge, the county engineer, and Wayne Belmont met with your fine folks from Public Works, and we actually had, I think, a very constructive meeting. We basically laid out what we were looking at. I think we're all now on the same level. We threw out some options Lila and Stephanie want to kind of soak it in, take a look at it. We don't really have any numbers right now. It's a little bit premature for that, but we're going to try to get back together soon. And I don't really see this process taking that long. I think that we're really close to getting this jurisdictional transfer done.
So, Mr. Kenyon, if I could just jump in case there's anybody watching or listening who doesn't have the full context, we're talking about transfer of Logan Road, which has proved to be a pretty thorny problem because of the need to do culvert work, and so far our best efforts to come up with a solution acceptable to all agencies have come to naught. So we're now, hoping that maybe the city, being right here, could help hopefully be more, frankly, have the success we have not had in bringing about a solution. So we're attempting to negotiate transfer of the road with other considerations, hopefully to make the upgrades necessary feasible, whereas usually when there's a jurisdictional transfer, we do the work and then make the transfer. But is that a fair way? That was not as direct as it should have been, but usually we pay, fix the road, give it to you. We're going to give you the road and some money to do the final.
We've actually done it over the years. We've done it both ways.
Yeah.
It really is kind of what is the preferred way. With Logan Road, there are difficulties. I think what's kind of unique about it is the problems we ran into. Actually, we ran into city-owned utilities that was causing an issue. We ran into one kind of quasi-city public road that was causing a little bit of an issue. I mean, it's just kind of a thing that is more, because of where it's at, it's more of a City of Lincoln City thing than it is a county thing. We're running into some problems trying to meet basically goals or standards that were set by Department of State Lands, by ODF&W, Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, and a few others. And it's nothing new. I mean, every time we go to do something, we run into these issues, but in most cases, we're not dealing with city utilities or city property or city anything, because almost all of our road, probably 99% of our road mileage exists outside of any city. And so we're geared more towards the rural environment. And so, yes, it's difficult. It's not impossible. Sometimes it takes multiple players to get something done, and I think that's kind of the direction that we're going now.
Okay, questions or comments for Roy?
I would just like to say thank you very much for working with the city staff. I really appreciate it. It's in my ward, and I've been hoping that this can get moved along and we can get on with some other work on that road. And I believe during the break in our pressure line that we actually found that there were 2 culverts, and not just one, but 2 culverts under Logan that went across the state park property and onto the beach. So yes, it is complicated, but and I think we have the best staff combined to get that sorted out, and hope to hear the resolution very soon.
Right, yes, there's actually one main culvert that carries majority of the water, and then at some time after that, there was an overflow tube put in to handle flow during extremely, high flows. And yes, your line break was kind of in between those, and anyway, that's another one of the little issues. But it is actually a pleasure to work with the Public Works people here. Always has been. We've always had a very, very good working relationship. It's really easy to sit down at the table with them and have a good, friendly, intellectual conversation. And there's nothing adversarial about it. It's a good working deal.
Solution oriented, it sounds like. Mr. Mayor.
Hi. Roy, are there other projects that you've got planned in North County this coming fiscal year?
There is not anything this fiscal year. The second bridge on East Devils Lake, unfortunately has been on the list, but it continues to get bumped because other things take its place. But my city engineer, the county engineer has basically promised me in the next 2 years we will get that. That's one of those things we will get. This year, the way the funding worked out going forward, we have a road just north of the Alsea Bay that back in 2015 we lost. It's a paved road, 2-lane paved road. We lost one entire lane, and it's been one-way yield oncoming traffic since then. And we finally was able to secure the funds to do that project, and so it's kind of like the bridge on East Lake is functional. It's not good, but it's functional, and so at times you get these other projects that come up that become a safety issue. This was one of those, but we have plans for that project, and we are looking forward to doing that. And I think that once we get that done and we raise that whole west end of the road grade and open up the drainage so that the water flows better in there, I think it'll alleviate probably almost all of the flooding issue for now.
Thank you.
Even the first project, you know, as somebody who doesn't live here but frequently uses that shortcut, it sure seems like it made a big impact for the better. Well, not totally eliminating the problem.
It has, yeah. I don't believe we've seen any salmon spawning across the road in the last couple winters. So
one of those pictures that just went viral around the country, maybe around the world. Anything else for Roy? Okay, thanks, Roy. Well, gee, I was such a taskmaster, worried about keeping us on time, that here we are with 8 minutes to spare before we hit adjournment time. So maybe we could open up the floor to council or commissioners. Any topics of mutual interest that we didn't have reports on tonight? Things either we could perhaps address tonight or ask staff to come back at a later point?
Thoughts?
Yes, sir. Mark.
One, I'm wondering about, I've heard a lot about great programs, quite a few that I was not familiar with, and I'm wondering about publicity, about outreach, marketing your services. How do we do that in the county?
Well, Mr. Miller, who's manning the camera tonight, is our county public information officer, but also our largest departments, Sheriff's Office and Health and Human Services, both do have resources devoted to
I would
marketing.
also add that I believe in Cinda's budget
that's
through
right.
STIF
We didn't
funding,
have
she actually has some marketing money as well, which I think is maybe the first time that has been a line item in her budget. So you will see some more, well, not even more. We haven't done a whole lot. So you will see kind of a marketing plan and some stuff coming out specifically from transit, is actually have a marketing budget to do some of that work now. So that's one area I would say in the outreach department that will improve significantly over the next year or two. Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to know that something exists before you go to the website. That's you know. If I could do one more, this is maybe more of a state ODOT thing, but the drive over Cape Foulweather is treacherous. We all know it. What can we do to get some sort of lighting, something along the lines, you can't even see the lines on a foggy night. You know, how do we make that happen?
Well, actually, there have been some activities by ODOT to address some of those issues. There was a group of citizens that met, I'm going to guess, maybe last fall. But ODOT did go out and paint the lines, and that was, I guess, something that was done out of schedule. They also have worked to clean up the reflectors so that you can see the guardrails and that sort of thing more clearly. They're looking at possible use of rumble strips or Director Kenyon, help me, countersunk reflectors, I think, is the other alternative. So they're looking at some of those things to improve that the safety issues along there. They're also going to look at better signage as far as curves and that sort of thing. So there have been some things done, and there are more things to be done. Resources is always a concern, but there are an awareness of some of those challenges, and they're trying to address them.
Mr. Mayor.
If I could, and not switch topics, not back onto highways, but other things that we're doing, and I point to, what do we call it, Health and Human Services. We're actually up here at a council meeting earlier the year, and I would let the commissioners know it's real helpful to have the managers come up and give us an update, use the 5 minutes. And I think that was when we first heard of both veteran services being expanded and the walk-in mental health. And that helps because this room may not always be filled with bodies, but the cameras are rolling. And I've always been amazed at how many people watch either live or the tape council meeting. So it is a good place to advertise, announce, and on a regular basis. You're more than welcome using the 5 minute. Like the commissioners had you practice now.
There we go. Okay, Councilor Hoagland.
Thank you. Recently, the city had a work session regarding plastic, styrofoam, and food waste, composting, things like that. And I would just like to ask you as commissioners, what are your county goals for if you have plastic list, single-use plastic, composting, styrofoam ban? As we as council have discussed, that to direct staff to come back with that, I'd just like to pose a question to you all.
Yeah, so we recently did look into this, and what we learned is that we can't pass anything countywide. It would just have to come back to municipalities. And we only have one grocery store in the unincorporated areas, which would be Glennon Beach. So
would it be something that you could say as a general blanket statement that you are in favor of, that you would support? As commissioners, could you say things like that?
I can say it. I don't know what the other two would say, but as an individual, I
we haven't had
would.
any formal board discussion on the topic, but I think it's something I definitely would support in concept.
The concept, sure, absolutely.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I'm adapting to no plastic bags in Newport. I might be whining, but I am adapting, so everyone can too, so.
And then it goes statewide January 1st, I believe, so we will all be adapting, yep.
And I guess one announcement I also wanted to make is, I know in talking to Mayor Anderson, I think at coffee sometime in the last month, that all of you also had a visit from the U.S. Census about their upcoming census that they are doing. They came and met with us as well as in our joint meeting at Depot Bay. And I was surprised, being new in office, that they really looked to local resources to be able to put together these count committees, which was surprising, I will say. But on our, I think it'll be on our consent calendar, not this week, but next week, I believe. Wayne is nodding yes, next week. We are looking at a contract with the Cascades West Council of Governments to do a complete count committee for all of Lincoln County. So they would actually sort of take that on and do that work. As we at the county just really didn't have the staff to be able to pull that off. They're also doing this with Lynn and Benton counties as well. So this will be for all of Lincoln County. They will probably be reaching out once that contract is in place to people in Lincoln City and other cities, just to make sure that they have good representation on those count committees, but also that we're counting the people that are hard to count, and that's really the purpose of that
ESL folks, folks who are isolated by geography, other barriers, and what's the figure that supposedly each head counted by the census per capita means? Is it 3,200 or something higher in federal resources coming in at the city and county level? So I think it's a worthwhile investment, even if it captures just a handful of people who wouldn't have been.
So we're hoping that
Friday
maybe
night
helps take the burdens off the cities, but we're hoping cities and people will participate in that to make sure we get a good count, so.
Well, and I think the key is getting a good count.
Yes.
The more people that are counted, the more that benefits not only the county, but the cities too.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, we're at 7 o'clock, so I want to thank you all for your time, your participation, as always, your hospitality as well. We will recess this work session, or actually adjourn it, and the Board of Commissioners will convene in just a couple of minutes for our primary agenda. And I believe our honorees are going to be here because that will be first item on the agenda once we begin. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Any questions?
Awesome.
Okay.
Anna, knee surgery? My wife has something like this on her hip.
Oh, yeah,
So did you get a replacement?
I don't know how to get there. I mean, I don't know where the entrance is. I was gonna ask Katie. Hoping there will be.
I'm leaving Thursday.
Were you going to the?
It's, well, as you're, I'm sure, experiencing, it's a slow recovery. Yeah. Yeah, well, the first day after the surgery, she was in the hospital, and she says, I wish I'd never done it, but a couple of days later, she was at least feeling positive about it. Mr. Mayor, good to see you. Take care.
Okay, so it's, anyways, okay, it's not that one, it's this one.
Pretty big consent account.
Try to keep the train
Until
running
I've
on
never been
time.
in jail.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a lot. Hey, Jim, good to see you. You all ready to?
Yeah, we've talked about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, hope.
Yes?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Hi.
Case raise the priority of some money. Yeah, no,
But I know
Well, that was easy.
Okay, that's fine. I got it.
you know, there's no money for us to hassle over for how many years? But,
Got it.
yeah, but no, that's something that we've talked
Taking your seat, Jake.
Okay.
because I kind
Folks, I got a 2-hour drive to Portland after our meeting, so if you could get going soon, I'd appreciate it.
You too, I'm gonna beat you.
Okay, you are, yes, you get the head start.
Deanna, good luck with the knee. Hi, Michelle. Every once in a while, she says, painful, I overdid it. I said, yeah, that's my wife.
Casey, are we ready? Okay.
Sit next to me. Don't be a stranger.
I don't want to be on TV.
You can be Dick.
Oh, well, I guess,
There you go. You can be Dick
I
Anderson.
don't even have an agenda.
Sure.
Thanks.
Good evening. It is Wednesday, July 10th, 2019. This is the regular meeting of the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners, convening in the City Council chambers at Lincoln City following our yearly joint work session. All three commissioners are present, constituting a quorum. First up, we have a very special presentation, an outstanding service award for a member of the Sheriff's Office team, and I would like at this point to invite Lance White, Post Commander of VFW Post 4227, to come forward, and I understand he will be speaking for the VFW Post.
Very expensive pizza.
Thank you all, and congratulations, Deputy McGuire. Yes, indeed. We move to the adoption of the consent calendar. These are routine items or items we've discussed at previous meetings. Any items that either commissioners or staff wish to highlight or remove?
I'll move for approval of the consent calendar as presented.
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of the consent calendar. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is approved unanimously. We move on to discussion and information item. Let's bring back Mr. Kenyon, and this is award of bid for Bayview Slide Road repair. I believe, is this the project you were just alluding to in our joint work session, sir?
It is.
Okay.
Roy Kenyon, Lincoln County Public Works Director. This year, just recently, we advertised for a contract to repair a slide from 2015-16 winter. We received 3 bids. They were all fairly good bids. The engineer's estimate for this project was $398,000. We had K&E Excavating Incorporated turned in a bid of $397,000. Ayers West Construction turned in a bid of $383,000, and JRT Construction turned in a bid of $308,776. JRT Construction is the same contractor that did the work for us on Ekman Creek Road when we had that very large concrete arch put in last year. Actually, we were very, very satisfied with the outcome of the project. They were very easy to work with, very productive. And anyway, we're glad to see that they are low bid on this project. And so I'm asking the board to go ahead and award this bid to JRT Construction.
Okay, not a question, but a comment, and correct me if I'm wrong, sir, but again, the Ekman Creek washout, isn't that, that's one more example of the unexpected things that come along that unfortunately push some projects further down our priority list than we would like.
That is true, and really it just kind of depends on where it is and what it is, and if it's well, in the Ekman Creek case, that was actually that occurred during a declared disaster, and so there were FEMA funds involved with that repair.
But even that doesn't pick up the total bill.
It picks up 75%. We were still on the hook for 25% of that. And so when in the case of this failure not being associated with a declared disaster, Lincoln County has to pick up 100% of the cost. And so over the last half a dozen years with the state of our budget, we kind of have to pick and choose what we do. And like I told the council and the mayor earlier today, like the project with East Devils Lake Road, although we know that it's needed, it's not totally necessary. But with this slide repair, like I said, we have a 2-lane paved road that's been 1-lane yield oncoming traffic since 2015 winter, and so we really need to get it done. And we were glad to see that we got a very good bid from JRT, and like I said, they've done an extremely good job for us in the past. There's no reason to expect that we won't get exactly the same outcome with this project.
If we do approve this award at a meeting in the immediate future, is there a timeline for the work?
Basically, we're hoping to get approval next Wednesday, and then it's kind of a short turnaround. Actually, July 22nd will be their first day. They're ready to go. And the big thing, because we're trying to get this thing going, because it's going to affect the road for a period of time. There's going to be a closure, and we posted the road today, and I've sent Casey some information, and so that'll be going out to the public here soon. But we want to get it done prior to Labor Day. The school bus does run on that route. We do not want to interfere with the school bus route.
So the goal is to try to, the goal is to try to have it done by September-ish?
Yes.
Pre-Labor Day-ish. though.
Pre-Labor Day-ish.
bus,
Yeah,
yeah.
pre-first day of school-ish.
Good plan, yeah.
Further comments, questions for Mr. Kenyon?
Yep.
Do we have a consensus to move this forward for approval next week? Decision and action?
Sounds like we'll put it on the agenda for next week, and we'll get the contracts ready and get this going.
All right.
I
Thank
agree.
you, Mr. Kenyon.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner reports.
I will just say that I enjoyed the Lincoln County Fair last week, which was July 4th through Sunday. Good fair. I feel like every year it just sort of gets better and better. Served about 300 meals at the senior barbecue. Enjoyed the rodeo, and also thank you to the Black family and 4-H'er Riley Black, who I bought a lamb from at the 4-H auction. So
And the
thanks
first,
to everybody.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to step on it, but of the first time in 10 years, we've had a full-blown rodeo at the fair. We've substituted a bull riding event the last few years, but based on what I observed and what I've heard from a lot of people, the return of the full rodeo was really welcomed by a lot of folks.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to attend, and my granddaughter had quite the time on air-filled toy or structures, I
house.
guess.
Yeah.
The bounce house or
Bouncy houses.
bouncy houses, yeah, and so that was a high point for her, and it was a nice point for the fair. The other thing I'd just quickly comment on is I attended the Lincoln County Health Council meeting yesterday, and the medical doctor that the county has hired was there, and this has been an absence that we've had in the county for quite a long time. We've had locums and we've had other individuals that have filled that bill, but the county now has a medical doctor who's actually trained in psychiatry, but as a psychiatrist has the medical doctor degree also. So it's a big step forward for the county.
Very good. I'll mention that I will be missing next week's meeting, but I know the two of you will carry on in my stead.
If I don't have jury duty.
Oh, that's right. I guess if that happens, we may have to cancel because I am flying out tomorrow to Las Vegas, the annual conference of the National Association of Counties. Approximately 3,000 county elected officials and county staff will be gathering for, I guess, Friday, Saturdays. 4 days of conferences, workshops, action by policy steering committees on national issues, and I'm on the Health Steering Committee and also Veterans and Military Affairs Steering Committee, where we take positions and work to advocate on congressional bills that, again, impact service delivery at the county and city level. And then after I return, I'm actually going to be taking a few days with relatives who are from out of state who are visiting the area. So we'll see hopefully in 2 weeks. Okay, now we have constituent input, up to 5 minutes for any individual to address us on any item not on the agenda. Okay. Given that, we do not have a need for an executive session, so our next meeting, again, will be back in the usual location, Wednesday, July 17th, 9:30 a.m., Board of Commissioners Meeting Room. That's room 108, ground floor, the courthouse in Newport. Thank you all. Casey, anything that needs to be signed right now? Yeah.
Yes.
And now I'll see if I have jury duty tomorrow.
Oh, my goodness.
There are no jury
Oh.
trials the rest of this week.
Oh, good.
Please
For you.
check this message Monday, July 15th, after 5:30 p.m. for
And you guys need to go over here and sign. Kathy, did you sign Kathy's book?
I might need to sign her book.
Yeah, you need to sign Kathy's book.
Urgency on this?
I think I told you, Doug, I was upstairs and Judge Huckleberry was sitting there waiting for jury duty.
Judge Huckleberry was?
Marcia Buckley.
Are you kidding?
And someone from jail, all three of
Okay,
us.
I don't understand where I sign on
I'm
this
just waiting
one.
to get dismissed. Yeah, he was funny. He was like, I actually think I'd be a great juror.
Well, you heard the story about him saying that for me. Did you ever hear that story? Oh, this is a great story. So I get called for jury duty. I've been called